My name is Caroline Bishop, and my favorite Mason moment was getting to watch my sister graduate 2 years ago from school.
I'm Harry Geiser, and my favorite Mason moment was the Philmont trek I went on with my Mason Boy Scout troop.
Hi, my name is Shashir Anamanani, and my favorite Mason moment was when I was able to compete at Indiana University for Model UN with my friends.
My name is Tim Brewer, and my favorite Mason moment is really a lot of moments, and it's just been marching with the marching band for 4 years with all my friends.
My name is Hamza Asghar, and my favorite Mason moment would be helping to build the senior HOCO float. So.
Hello, my name is Diego Fortson, and my favorite Mason moment would be last year's sectional swim meet. The entire team swam really well, and we were super hyped up for each other's successes. So it was a nice team moment.
My name is Sarah Lyons, and my favorite Mason moments are getting to hang out with all my best friends at marching band football games and competitions.
Hi, my name is Vignesh Ganji. I think my favorite Mason moment was when I moved here in 7th grade.
My name is Ravi Bandaru, and my favorite Mason moment would probably be competing with my Cytally teammates at MIT.
My name is Amaya Saraf. My favorite Mason moment was not in Mason. It was at a speech and debate tournament in Sylvania, and it got snowed in, so we got to stay an extra night, and it was really fun.
Hi, my name is Anish Gangafaram, and my favorite Mason moment would be winning the boys' state tennis championship last year, and seeing all of our hard work culminate into success.
Hi, my name is Aryan Tadwalker, and my favorite Mason moment is being able to compete at MIT's campus in person with my Science Olympiad team.
My name is Nikhith Vengala. My favorite Mason moment was when we had New York Times bestselling author Kate Fagan come in and lead an important discussion about mental health.
Hi, I'm Nishita Tananji, and my Mason moment would be winning my 3rd singles match against Walnut Hills to win it for the team.
Hi, my name is Reva Reddy, and my favorite Mason moment would be the team dinner that we had before Speech and Debate States my sophomore year, which was kind of our last hurrah before COVID.
Hi, my name is Omo Thiala, and my favorite Mason moment was this year's cross-country GMCs.
Hi, my name is Nushal Suhas, and my favorite Mason moment is making the boys' district championships for swimming my junior year.
Hello, I'm Ananya Viswanathan, and my favorite Mason moment was the support my teachers provide me in the classroom as a hearing impaired person.
Hi, my name is Adam Weaver, and my Mason moment was getting to see my Eagle Scout project come together at MECC and get to see the 2nd graders using it.
All right, hello, I'm Malik Treneman. My favorite Mason moment was the hackathon the Hack Club hosted. I think it was sophomore year, and that's an event where you make a software with a team, and you basically just stay up 24 hours and just code. And I really liked that, but no. We lost horribly, but it was great. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Yes, I'll ask our students, can you please come up closer to the front of the stage, and then our board members will stand here on this bottom step for a picture. Yep, even closer. We'll let you arrange yourselves and maybe towards the center. Yep. And while we finish our last photos here, I'll also ask our National Merit Commended students to come join me on the right side of the stage. Thank you. Congratulations. We are so proud to also honor our National Merit Commended students. These 27 students scored in the top 3 to 4% of the 1.5 million United States students competing in the National Merit Scholarship Program. An incredible accomplishment. So I don't know about you, but I cannot wait to hear some more Mason moments from these students. Just so many amazing examples of the great gifts and talents that our students bring to us beyond their incredible academic accomplishments, and including those as well. So students, again, we'll ask you to come join us, please, with your name and a Mason moment.
My name is Dylan Plouffe. My Mason moment is running with my teammates at the state cross-country meet last year.
My name is Jack Duncan. My favorite Mason moment is probably spending time in marching band with all of my friends in the pit.
Hi, my name is Satya Panchu, and my favorite Mason moment is placing at FBLA Nationals during sophomore year.
Hi, my name is Shatiz Adhikari, and my favorite Mason moment was qualifying for AIM through my efforts on math team.
My name is Neha Gunda, and my favorite Mason moment was painting my senior parking spot.
I'm Julia Lee Nellett, and my favorite Mason moment was competing at HOSA Internationals freshman year.
My name is Rebecca Heffron, and my favorite Mason moment was doing the senior versus teachers dance battle and just dancing and representing all the students.
My name is Isha Reddy, and my favorite Mason moment is painting my parking spot with my friends, only to realize we painted the wrong spot.
My name's Tulsi Rao, and my favorite Mason moment is starting a new club and seeing the difference I can make with it.
is Noah Samuel. My Mason moment was going to Cleveland last year with the baseball team and beating Ignatius.
So my name is Malhar Patare, and my favorite Mason moment was volunteering with my friends at an auction. There was just like so many rich people there. It was ridiculous.
My name is Azhan Ashraf, and I think my Mason moment was definitely competing with our speech and debate team, like across Ohio. That was really fun.
Hi, my name is Lyra Mamakos, and my favorite Mason moment was volunteering with the Mason Police and working with them to run the Mason Safety Camp. It was a great experience, and it led me to want to be a teacher.
My name is Ayush Salar, and my Mason moment would be placing in my robotics state tournament.
My name is Konstantin Stanescu, and my Mason moment is winning the state's chess championship with the Mason chess team.
Come on down here to the half circle here.
And one final big round of applause for all of our National Merit recognized students. We are so proud of you. Thank you for joining us. This is the time when often our board members may have some comments or things to share, so I'll turn it over to them.
Well, as Amy said, congratulations to all of our National Merit Scholarship semifinalists and our commended students. You know, it was really an enjoyable, just listening to all of you share your Mason moments, and sort of a recurring theme. It felt like a lot of those were moments shared with community and with your classmates and your teammates, and a lot of those are memories and things that we hope you'll carry with you as you move forward beyond Mason and into whatever life holds in store for you. But we are really glad to hear those moments and happy to share those with you tonight and recognize this milestone along your journey. So congratulations.
I was going to say something similar. Oftentimes we'll hear students share about their experiences with other accomplishments that are really big. I don't know that during my time on the board we've heard that many huge accomplishments mentioned as favorite Mason moments. So we have state championships, beating bitter rivals in the northeast part of the state, competing at a national level at places like MIT. I mean, those accomplishments are incredible, but what my favorite thing about it is, I just know that the reason those were your favorite Mason moments is the stories you would have told us if we had 2 or 3 more minutes to hear each of your rich stories about those moments. Because we know what stands out in your mind and makes it your favorite moment is the experience that you had with your friends, your teammates, your family when you were going through and accomplishing that goal. So we appreciate that so much. We see that in what you do, and you set an example for everyone around you. And so just one last time, congratulations.
me okay?
To mimic what the gentleman has said on the board, and how special it is we can be here tonight. This is my second year on the board, and last year we didn't get to experience this in the large common, so this is special. I'm very proud of your students, the parents who have taken such an active role in bringing along your kids and developing them to, you know, prioritize their lives, because obviously they have a lot more activities than just staying at home and studying. There's so many accomplishments besides this, which is amazing. So just congratulations to the students, and a thank you to the parents.
Well, I just want to say that, you know, behind you, you're surrounded by some banners that go around the top here, kind of like that wall, the wall of fame in a stadium or something. But each of your names will be up there, and students who follow you for years will look up and be motivated by your names up there. And so I just want you all to know that while you all go on and do some great things, you've left a legacy here tonight in your time here at Mason High School, and also for years to come. So really well done. I also want to say a thank you, because each of you create a high bar for your classmates. I also heard not one Mason moment was about an A+ in calculus or a test that you conquered, and you've conquered many, obviously. Every Mason moment was about rounding out your experience and making you a more rounded individual as you're growing up. And that is a testament to the community that you live in that makes those opportunities available, and the parents around you. So let's give a round of applause to your parents, please.
Offer my congratulations as well, but I have one question. You all have had the past couple of years that were quite unique, and I'd like to see, just for a show of hands, how many of you have had the pandemic affect your future plans for the rest of your life? Anybody? That's interesting. You know what you want, then go get it. We're going to be watching you.
Well, thank you again for sharing this moment with us, and we're glad we could honor you and recognize you for this milestone, and we're looking forward to seeing what you all will accomplish going forward. The next part of our agenda, we have another part to our superintendent's presentation. Typically, we might take a pause here to let folks move on with your evening if you'd like. However, you are more than welcome to stay, and you might actually
Charles,
find
should we let them know what the next presentation is, so they can make an educated choice?
Yeah, you might find this interesting and informative. This is going to be a 5-year forecast presentation by our treasurer, Sean Bevan. So you're more than welcome to stay, but we'd also be happy to take a pause and let you move on with your evening. So congratulations again. away, Sean.
See, we have a few brave souls that have stayed the course here tonight. I sure brought some candy bars or something to reward those who stayed with us. But tonight is one of our 2 meetings for the year that we approve our 5-year financial forecast. We do that twice a year in October and May, and we submit that to the State Department of Education. But in addition to that, the 5-year forecast, for anybody out here who either in the audience or is watching later, the board knows this, but the 5-year forecast is also something we do on a regular basis and update regularly to help us plan for and prepare and evaluate financial decisions, whether those things are levies or investments or program changes or staffing changes. The 5-year forecast is a great tool and something we use on a regular basis for those things. So in tonight's meeting, we'll go through a couple of the highlights in the forecast. First of all, just on the revenue side, just kind of a breakdown, a graph breakdown of where our revenues come from. You can see between real estate and state funding, those 2 categories make up about 85% of our funding from the general operating fund. And real estate in particular, over half. So that our lifeblood is our local property taxes, and so that kind of highlights why it was so important for us to pass that operating levy back in 2020, and continue to be very grateful to our community for their support. And again, that was just an extremely important thing for our district's financial health. In terms of our local property values, you can see almost 80% of our value comes from homes. Not surprisingly, we have about 25 square miles in the district, and we have over 10,000 kids in our schools, and so it's a pretty dense area. 25 square miles, to give you some context, Warren County as a whole is about 400 square miles, so we just have a small piece of the land area, but again, a pretty robust student population. This graph takes a look at our local property taxes over the last 10-year period, going back 5 and going forward 5. You can see from 2017 through 2020, our local property taxes were pretty much flat. And we'll talk more about this here in a minute, but the operating levy that was passed in 2020, we started collecting on that this calendar year. You kind of see the increase there, and again, driven entirely by our 2020 operating levy. One thing to note, again, that was just a reminder, that was a 2-part phase-in levy, so the first part of that is being collected this year. The second part of that phase-in levy will be collected starting in January. But the good news, again, was that we have some bond mills dropping off next year, so that 5.25 mil increase starting in January will be fully offset by the drop in bond mills. Another current thing that's kind of taken place here lately is the Ohio Fair School Funding Formula. This is actually something we've been talking about for the last 3 years. It's been in the works in various stages of legislation over the past few years, but the reason we're bringing it up now is that it just now worked its way entirely through the legislative process and was signed into law this summer. And so we feel like we can now talk a little bit more definitively. We have talked about this often in board meetings over the last few years and have given updates on the process of where things are at. But again, it now is into law. One of the differences, there are a few differences in this formula, and I'll get to the bottom line here in a minute, but one of the differences is that the old formulas used to look at property values pretty much exclusively when they were evaluating a school community's ability to fund their local schools. One difference in this formula now is that local property value is about 60% and income taxes are about 40%. So that's a new wrinkle in the formula. However, the bottom line at the very end of the day is that this formula really does not change things for Mason schools. We are projecting flat funding over the next 5 years from this new funding model. There are districts in the state who are receiving big increases, and you might have read about some of those or heard about those in other places, but for us in particular, this formula really is not a change for us. And again, reiterates why it's so important for us to have our support of our local community. Another current topic, the 2021 triennial update. So all 88 counties in Ohio go through a reappraisal and update process. Every 6 years there's a full reappraisal. Every third year in between that is what they call a triennial update. 2021 happens to be a triennial update for Warren County. And on the average, some houses might go down in value, some houses might go up 5% or 20%. but the average for our school district this year is this 13%. One thing that's important to note, and I did put this on here, is that your property tax bills are not necessarily going to increase at the same rate as your the value of your home. So if your home went up 5%, or if your home went up 20%, you're not going to see that same increase in your property tax bill. The reason for that is something called House Bill 920. We will talk more about that in a minute. But there are different kinds of voted mill, or different kinds of mills. So the mills are what establishes the tax rate for property taxes. And 88% of the mills or tax rate that we have, going back to levies that were passed all the way back in the 60s, 88% of the millage rate is voted from voted mills, and about 12% is from inside mills or non-voted mills. So we will talk more about House Bill 920 here in a minute, but that's just a little bit of a snapshot on the triennial update. Moving over to the expense side, about 85% of our expenses are going to be in either salaries or benefits. Not surprisingly, from our general operating fund, because we are a service industry. We don't have inventory. We're not producing widgets or some kind of tangible good. We're educating students and providing opportunities for families, and so 85% of our budget is from personnel. And so we're appreciative of the great staff that we have. Some of the other categories, the next largest category other than personnel is purchase services, so educational services, custodial services, safety and security services, those kinds of things are in that category. Supplies and materials is about 2%. That includes things like classroom supplies, bus fuel, and maintenance supplies. Capital, we have no capital expenses to speak of in our general operating fund. The reason for that is we have a separate permanent improvement fund that is outside of this, and so all of those expenses are charged to that permanent improvement fund. Other items are about 2%, county auditor collection fees, audit and bank fees. I promised a minute ago I would talk more about House Bill 920. It's an interesting topic, but it's definitely worth talking about because it has a major impact on schools across Ohio, Mason schools included. So one of the things we put on here tonight to look at is a couple graphs to explain a little bit more about House Bill 920 and what the impact is. So on this particular chart, the green line right here represents total revenues, total operating revenues, and the black line represents total operating expenses. Also important to note that this graph is only illustrative. This is not an actual graph from our district. It's more just an educational piece to kind of show, again, the impact of House Bill 920 on schools all across the state. But one of the things that you'll see kind of happens in this kind of situation, the reason that the green line is flat and then has these stair-step increases is because of House Bill 920. So House Bill 920 says that as property values increase, your tax rate decreases. So on any voted levy that you have, so again, for the 8 levies we have back to the 60s, as a home goes up 13% in value, the tax rate is going to drop so that the school district receives no new property taxes from that particular levy. And again, that represents 88% of our millage or our tax rate that we collect on. So that's what drives this flat funding in terms of local property taxes. You saw it a few slides ago when we looked at the levy slide where we had 4 years of flat funding from our local property taxes. So this flat line, again, leads us to the point where at some point we're passing some kind of operating levy. And so for us this year, again, this graph is illustrative, but for us this year was the 2020 operating levy. So you kind of see a jump up in revenues. And so you kind of, schools in general kind of go through this cycle. And this is one of the most common questions we get, is not just for Mason schools. We went 15 years between levies, which was phenomenal. But for schools all across the state, there's hundreds of levies that are run every year. And so one of the questions we get is, why do I always see school levies on the ballot all across the state? And really this is why, is because school district expenses are increasing over time gradually, but because of House Bill 920, income levels or revenue levels are not increasing at the same rate. So basically what you end up with is these years where this blue circle up here is one of those a group of years where revenues exceed expenses. So in our particular forecast, we're showing that being the case in fiscal year 22 through 25. This red circle down here is some years where expenses are going to exceed revenue, and that took place in our forecast from fiscal year 18 to fiscal year 21. To take this one step further, this graph is actually for Mason schools. Kind of explain this a little bit. The black bars on here are the total revenues for the district. This is, again, fiscal year 17 through 26. The gray bars are total expenses. And so there are some years where, thinking back to our last graph, there are years where revenues exceed expenses. And so we're adding to our cash balances or our cash reserves. Then there are years where expenses exceed revenues, and so you start to see this decline in cash balances or cash reserves. And so for us, one of the processes that our board goes through every year is to evaluate our cash cycle and our cash reserves, and evaluate what kind of timing we're looking at for whether or not there's going to be a need for a levy. So each year through this process, our board was doing that. And so back in 2018, 2019, they're going through those evaluation processes. Again, put the levy on in 2020. And so at that time, we knew that our cash reserves are being eaten into, and there's only so long that you can spend out of your savings account before your reserves are eventually depleted. So the levy was passed here, and so now we're kind of making our way back through that cycle, and fiscal year 22 is where we're at right now. And so we are showing that for the next few years, we're projecting that we're going to have revenues greater than expenses, and we're going to be adding to our cash reserves and putting us back into a healthy financial position. So in summary, one of our main goals here at the district is just to provide outstanding educational opportunities. We just had our Merit Scholars here tonight, which was phenomenal to see, to provide great academic and educational opportunities and extracurricular opportunities for our kids and families, and to do that at a price that provides a lot of value for our community and for our taxpayers. I'm happy to report that on the latest niche rankings, Mason Schools is in the top 2% of schools in Ohio. And we're providing those opportunities at a cost that is below the state average on a per student basis, which I think is something to really be proud of for our board and our community. The next thing to note here, and we did look at this just a minute ago in our graph, but going back to our 2020 operating levy, we did make the commitment that that levy would last at least 5 years. The last one lasted 15. We made the promise that this one would last at least 5 years, hopefully longer. I'm happy to report that by the end of the school year, we'll be 2 full years into that commitment and well on our way to fulfilling that promise. Questions? Everybody awake?
Well, let me just add a couple things. So there's Sean's very soft-spoken in his words, but we certainly appreciate having a pilot at the wheel that helps us think through all the variables that go into our forecast. There's many, but I'm glad that the role that we play is one that kind of gives some guardrails. One of those, which I'm very proud of, is that this board continues to deliver a value equation that looks like top education for below average in state spending. And that's been a consistent secret part of our recipe here at Mason that not only allows us to create great opportunities for kids, but brings a community along on a journey where they feel like they have tremendous value in the investment they're making, because it is an investment, and we look at it that way. The other thing I want to just say, it's part of a treasurer's DNA in Ohio. House Bill 920 is something that they talk about, like, around the table at Thanksgiving and stuff. But House Bill 920 is 45 years old. Came into effect in 1976. Levies started in Ohio in 1968. So think of what happened between 1968 and 1976. We had massive inflation. Home values were going up, and the legislature needed to step in because, you know, we couldn't just tax, because we also had a lot of bad years in terms of economic results. And so it's a great example of how government almost never ratchets back, it always ratchets forward. And so today, imagine a world where our friends who are in political offices who represent us and have an income tax on us. Imagine a world where if our income went up, our tax rate went down, and we just paid the same amount until we told them, hey, we're ready to tax ourselves a little bit more. And that's kind of what schools have dealt with in Ohio for the last 45 years. And, you know, I think it's actually probably, there's some merit to it because, you know, we certainly don't want property taxes to kind of dictate complete valuation. And they have had some moderation. You saw 12% of that is kind of over time emerged as moving up with value. But that just causes every school district to have some years of deficits and some years of surpluses, some years of deficits, some years of surpluses, and that's a very common thing. And so I can't help myself because in another life I'd love to be a treasurer like Sean, but it's it's really a testament to not just this board but past boards and Mr. Cooper and his staff on keeping the focus during things like COVID and other distractions that constantly take time. This constant drumbeat of fiscal responsibility serves everybody well, and it lets things happen like attract people to this community that make 6 or 7 people on the very first banner over there for National Merit move to 2 banners having 60 kids on here, you know, 15 years later when they're graduating. So I'm really proud of it. Sorry to talk so long, but these 2 times a year are important for us to kind of mark this moment with, this is not my Mason moment, by the way, but marks this moment that we take a look at this forecast. It's critical that we do. So thank you for allowing me to speak for a few minutes.
Thanks, Kevin.
Can I say one thing? It won't take a few minutes, hopefully, but I just wanted to remind our community that the 5-year forecast is prescribed by law. School districts are required to take a look at it twice a year, check against the forecast. I think some other school districts do that. They send it in, they're done, they leave it at that. But we have always used it since I've been on the board, and I know for years and years before that, as a planning tool for ourselves. And so when we look at any financial event in our district, or we look at opportunities to pay off some debt by being creative and refinancing bonds, that sort of thing, we always go back to our 5-year forecast and see how it impacts 5 years down the road. What does it do to that cash balance? Because we're always looking at that as a piece for long-term planning and seeing how we're going to get where we want to be and what impact that's going to have. And I love the slide, Sean, that you included about the House Bill 920, because that shows that other layer that we look at when we do the 5-year forecast, because we know, you know, school funding is really complicated, right? And it isn't just about balancing a budget each year, and if you're balanced, you're good. If you're not balanced, you're bad. It's much more complicated than that. And so this really, I appreciate this peek that it gives our community and our taxpayers into what a levy cycle looks like, because that is it. A levy cycle requires a period where you have stable funding, flatline funding, even knowing that even just cost of living, just inflation, regular inflation, your costs go up and your income stays the same. So you know there's going to be a period in every levy cycle where you're dipping into your cash reserves until you make that decision to go on the ballot. So this is really helpful to do that. So Sean, appreciate you walking us through it. Thank you.
Sean, I did want to just kind of circle back to one of the slides you mentioned, the 2021 Warren County Triennial Update. I think it's important to remind our community. You may feel the increase in property tax payments coming from our recently passed operating levy, but can you just kind of walk us back through with this triennial update what that means for property tax payers and how the property taxes as a result of that triennial update, how that, you know, relates to the school funding for Mason.
Yeah, sure. So the triennial update, as we mentioned, was about 13% on average for homeowners here in Mason. So basically, what the county auditor is going to do is he's going to take the effective millage rate for all the levies that we've had on the books back to 1968 and roll that back so that the average homeowner who sees a 13% increase is not going to pay any more taxes on any of those levies. And so we as a school district are not going to collect any new revenue on any of those levies, even though our housing values are going up by 13%. The part that we'll see a small increase on that 12% of inside mills, the unvoted mills, but it's a very small portion of our total property tax that we have on the books.
So somebody's total tax bill, you know, in Mason, for instance, of that total tax bill, I think it's something close to 70% comes to the
Right.
school district. A 13%, you know, property tax or valuation, excuse me, a 13% increase in home value doesn't equate to a 13% increase in property tax payment by that homeowner. Is that right? To
Yeah.
schools anyway. Right.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So you take 13%, a 13% increase on 12% of our property. You know, it's a very small portion of what they're going to see overall. And the other 30%, there are other inside mills or unvoted mills from other taxing authorities around the county, around the area. But like you said, that 70% is what goes to schools, and we're looking to see a very small increase from that. The other taxing authorities might see some. The other thing that House Bill 920 is something that mostly affects schools. It also affects townships. So we didn't talk about this, but school levies are ones that are very common. The other ones that are very common are police and fire, and those are through the township usually. So townships are in a similar situation. They might have some levies that roll back a little bit, but you're right on that. Most of that is going to come from the school district.
I don't want to make the meeting any longer, you know. In case anyone's watching and they survived after last night's marathon, I would say that, I would ask you a question. Does House Bill 920 affect the taxes from the other taxing authorities like county or city?
Does not affect their inside mills, no.
So when their millage goes up, when the valuation goes up, their tax revenue goes up?
Right.
Okay. And then the other question then is, so basically what the legislature's done is said, police, fire, and schools are going to need to tax themselves to survive. Everybody else above the totem pole, when income taxes go up or property taxes go up, their revenue goes up. Is that right?
That's right. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because if you look at other governmental entities around the state, there are different kinds of taxes that everybody pays. There's a property tax, there's a sales tax, there's an income tax. And really, at the state level, the state has the income tax and the sales tax, the county has the sales tax, the city has an income tax. Our bread and butter is property tax, but yet to your point, we're the only ones that see our tax rate change. So as income levels go up, or as inflation happens, the price of goods goes up, the state and other taxing authorities are going to see increases from those sales taxes or from those income taxes. But schools and to a small extent townships are the one exception to that, where as values go up, tax rates change, and we're not seeing the benefit of that.
Well, thank you, Sean. That was very informative. We're happy to have you here steering the financials of our district and keeping our community informed. It's very important. And we take it, we don't take it lightly, and it's something that we appreciate that our community, especially in 2020, when we went on the ballot for the first time in 10 years and passed a operating levy for the first time in 15 years, that the resounding support we got from the community, and we appreciate your updates on how that forecast is going. So with that, Our next item on the agenda, before we get to our next item on the agenda, this is also a time when we typically take a pause in our meetings to let folks move on with their evenings. We don't have too many folks here remaining tonight, so
Nobody just waiting for the FiveYear Forecast to be over and then they're out.
We do have one in the upper deck, though.
Oh, that's right.
Not just here for the forecast.
That is the front row, Maria, but not the front row. That's the front row of the upper deck.
Our next item on the agenda is our hearing of the public. We do have one participant tonight, so I'll go ahead and read our guidelines for hearing of the public. The board encourages community input during the hearing of the public section of all regular meetings. In order for the board to fulfill its obligation to complete the planned agenda in an effective and efficient fashion, maximum 30 minutes of public participation may be permitted at each meeting. Each person addressing the board shall sign the attendance sheet, complete and return a request to speak form, and be a resident or employee of the Mason School District. Each person is allotted 3 minutes until their total time is used. If 3 minutes is not sufficient for the person to address the board, they are encouraged to put their thoughts and comments in writing to the board members. And in order to prevent disclosure of students' or employees' private information, the board will not allow any complaints about specific employees or the district in public session. And another thing that just to kind of guide, again, we don't really get into a dialogue or a back and forth during hearing of the public. It's not a time where the board makes any decisions on any policies. It's an opportunity for the public to address the board. It's one of many channels. We get emails, we schedule meetings, we have telephone calls, we meet in person. So we just provide this platform and opportunity for our public to address the board. So with that, we have one person who is going to address the board tonight, and that is Edward Perdue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'd like to thank the council for letting me speak tonight. My name is Edward Perdue. I live at 301 East Circle Drive. I've been a resident of Mason for 61 years. I think we're all very blessed to be residents of Mason, Ohio. We have a very nice quality community to live in. I'm here tonight to talk about critical race theory and also a national security issue I'd like to share with you called targeted justice. Okay. In my opinion, the critical race theory teaches racist behavior. It's going on in Ohio. Anywhere in Ohio, it needs to cease. My opinion. According to Tori Morales and verified by General Flynn, every text, every email, every picture we've already taken, all of us, have been captured by the NSA, the DIA, or both. I think it's time to refocus on the Constitution, stand together as American people, one voice for America, defending the Constitution of the United States. In my opinion, we're in a spiritual battle right now. Everything that's happening in the world. I believe God wins in the end. What a blessing to be alive in the world with the collective conscious vibrating at a higher frequency. World citizens demand human rights. Accession to 5D consciousness is our goal. We are sick and tired of the 3D construct and demand change. These would be targetedjustice.com. I highly encourage everyone to take a look at that website. I want to thank you tonight for hearing my concerns. I encourage everyone to check out targetedjustice.com, freeohio.com, vaccineimpact.com, and torysays.com. To weigh and decide for yourself. Make up your own opinions. As a people, American people, this is our moment. It is up to us. That concludes my briefing.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Perdue.
you.
All right, this is another time in our meeting where we take a pause to let folks move on with their evening. And the next item on our agenda is item number 7, resolutions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion?
Yeah, just really briefly, at the last meeting, I think the last couple meetings, we've talked a little bit about the need for additional drivers and additional food service workers and substitute teachers. So the last meeting, we approved some movement on substitute teacher pay so that we could attract more talent. That has actually helped in all of our buildings. We have one building, middle school, so if you're still out there listening, middle school, we still need people to sign up. Our middle school students are really great. So if you're worried or scared about middle school, remember it's a time we all go through, and it's a time of discovery and figuring out yourself. They're wonderful, wonderful students, great sense of humor, so consider joining us for middle school substitute teaching. This is a resolution to help with 2 other areas, our bus drivers and also our food services. Our teams have gotten together, worked with Todd Petrie and Tanya McCall, and just worked through some of the different strategies that could attract talent to our district in a time where there is a shortage across the country. If you look out there, we were just on a website the other day where schools had all of the bus routes posted, and it was a large district. I think it was probably 50, 60 bus routes that would not be going that day. So as tune in today, click on the site, these are the bus routes not happening because of the shortage. We have not hit any of those moments because we worked really hard to keep our bus drivers on, and so this new strategy, you can read about it by clicking into the resolution if you're in the public, and you go onto our website, read through that. But just in really brief terms, on a high level, we're asking if you have someone that is interested in driving a bus in our district, please recommend them to us. If you're an employee, there's a financial incentive to recommend, so a finder's fee for some of our employees to find people. And the same thing goes with our food nutrition service employees. So please recommend friends, encourage people to come on board, and those that are in those positions, we just want to thank you for the great work that they're doing, because they do amazing work each and every day to keep our schools open. We talk a lot about keeping our schools open. It would not be possible without our food service and our bus drivers out there. So, Todd, did I miss anything on that? Is that okay? Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Yingling? Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes. Item number 8, non-district funded positions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling?
Item number 9, certified personnel superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Mrs. Yingling? Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Item number 10, certified personnel, additional duties. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to point out here, this is just highlighting some of the work that's being done throughout the district to address ongoing checkpoints for our students to make sure that we're aligned in our instructional practices and make sure our students are performing. We talk a lot about that we haven't lost any learning during this pandemic. We've been very fortunate to be open, but this is also a time for us to check to make sure that we're aligned throughout the time as well. So on item 10, additional duties, this just highlights that there are some of our teachers that are going to be doing additional duties beyond the workday, and that we are paying them for that time so that we're not pulling them out of the classroom. Because substitute teachers are hard to find, so this is one strategy to get the work done and also appreciate our teachers' work as well.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling? Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Item number 11, supplemental personnel, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling? Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Item number 12, resolution for hiring non-certified personnel, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion? Sean?
Ms. Yingling? Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes. Item number 13, classified personnel, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just like to always congratulate those that are retiring or moving on to new opportunities, and specifically, we like to always call out, especially if we have someone who has served in the district as long as Dorothy, the custodian here at the high school. I believe she's been serving here for 25 years, and I believe her husband also served in the district for a long period of time. So when families pour their lives into our district and make this the great place that it is, we just thank them and wish them the best on their next chapter of their life.
Thank you, Jonathan. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling?
Item number 14, classified personnel, additional duties. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sean?
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Galvin?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling? Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Item number 15, action items, superintendent's recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Item A on here, I'll just highlight that every probably 5 to 6 years, we look at our website and we ask the question, is it serving the purpose? And you know how technology changes very quickly. So we're always asking that question, is there a better way for us to give access to our families to connect? And that's always a hard thing for us to chase after because there's so many systems in a school district because we do so many different things for families. This is a look at Final Sight website, which is another platform that we're investigating right now. So you can read through this and look through that yourself, but that is something that we're looking at as a district. And we'll obviously involve lots of people in this process, but that is something we're looking into. That was on our plate before the pandemic. We pressed pause to get through the pandemic, and now we're back at that conversation. The rest of the items on here have come through, I believe, Facilities Committee. Todd's brought those through committee for us to look at. You'll see on here, the roof over at Central Office has been leaking for a little bit of time, so we're getting that fixed. I think it's over my office, or maybe it's just next to my office. The rest of the building, so we're getting that fixed. And also some roofing over here at the high school. We have, I don't know how many millions of square footage of roofs, but 5 acres of shingles just at the high school. So we're just taking one of those sections and addressing that in half acre.
A half acre of shingles.
A lot of shingles. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Jonathan. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I would just add, and I'll just kind of make this the facilities update. As Jonathan said, high school chiller, we're going to renew the chiller here at the high school, retrofit, refurbish, I guess different words that might come to mind, but that's a big program because maintaining proper ventilation, maintaining proper cooling, heating is an important thing that we want to do, and that's a good opportunity for us to do that in a cost-effective way. And then the roofing, I just want to highlight, because of the 5 acres of roofing, I like that scenario, or that visual, it kind of makes my point. We have to have both a ability to respond to problems and an orderly program for maintenance. Most people have the ability to respond, figure out how to pay for it. We also have the orderly approach, which makes our need to respond less timely or less, it happens in less frequency and it can be less expensive. So this is both a maintenance, important from a maintenance and planning standpoint, but also from quality of the roofing standpoint. It'll save us money in the long run. We can only do that with a long-term plan. And so Todd, thank you and the team for always keeping that in front of us. It's a lot of equipment, a lot of facility to keep track of, but you all do a great job. And it's critical for us to be able to have a forecast like we have right now. So I'll leave it at that. If there's any other details, but I think that's it for the items.
I don't know if we picked that up. You said proving this tonight will save 30% on those.
Correct. After the first of the year, there's a 20 to 30% increase in shingle costs.
Wow.
So it's going to be a tremendous savings.
That's great. Well, thanks for, again, Facilities Committee, great job keeping an eye
I
out.
won't go into inflation and all those things.
Yeah. No.
Kevin,
Thank
you mentioned the forecast. I think it's important to note that those items aren't coming out of the money that Sean was talking about. They're coming out of the Permanent Improvement Fund. And it just struck me is that every once in a while, you just stop and think about the building of this building. If we just take the high school, well, all of our building projects in the last 25 years, and I think it was $135 million of debt at one point. Well, when I joined the board in 2011, we're down to about 35 million right now, going to be paying that off over the course of the next couple of years. And yet through long-term planning, in addition to paying off that debt, we also know that through savings and long-term planning and wise decisions with the PI fund, that we can move and take advantage of that price savings and do the things that we need to do to maintain our systems over time so that we don't have to go back to our taxpayers when there's a major project that we need because we didn't plan. So just this is one of those nights where kind of everything comes together and you see the benefits of that long-term planning and stability and stewardship. So I just wanted to kind of point that out as a way to bring it all together. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. All right. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mrs. Batchy?
Yes.
Mr. Goffin?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling? Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
5-0.
Item number 16, Treasurer's Report. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Any discussion?
The forecast is one of the items that's on here for approval. We went through some of the highlights here tonight, but if anybody out there would like to go through the actual details of the forecast or the assumptions, welcome to do that. That is linked in board docs. One of the things I also wanted to mention was that this is the culmination of at least a month's worth of work. There's a finance committee that starts this process several weeks ago. It goes through the details of the forecast, meets on it for a couple hours. Following that meeting, the board has a work session where the board as a whole goes through it for another hour or two, going through the details of it, and then it's actually occurred tonight. So not just a one-night thing. It's a long, detailed process. So I appreciate your guys' support and getting into the details with me. So.
Well, we have all the confidence that you could wing it and pull it off at the last second, Sean, but we do appreciate you kind of guiding us through the paces of that and putting together a quality presentation and explanation of all that. So thank you. Any other discussion? Sean?
Mr. Goffin?
Yes.
Ms. Yingling? Mr. Wise?
Yes.
Mr. Steele?
Yes.
Ms. Batchy?
Yes.
Item number 17, committee reports. Okay.
I'll put a check mark by the facilities. We got that.
Gotcha. I think we've covered Finance Committee as well. Diversity Council?
Yeah, I can talk about Diversity Council. It's funny, I thought, surely we gave an update on that because we met, but we met right after our last board meeting last month. So Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council met for the first time this year on September 30th. And first of all, it was a fantastic time to be together in the same space for the first time since before COVID. So even just that fact alone was a really welcome thing to kick off the year and regroup, meet a couple new friends and faces, and reflect together. So catching up on the start of the year, we had an agenda after that, after we were able to make some connections and thoughtful discussion. We talked a little bit about what the work of the DEI Council might be this year, because as a reminder, it's a working council. We expect as a council to do work, to put some events and activities on for the community alongside the schools. And so we went through a fun exercise of imagining what that might look like and giving ideas. And so that was the start of a conversation to see what that might look like for the year. We went through the Inclusive Excellence Guide. You've heard me talk about that a few times. We have so the three big rocks are culture, personalized learning, and inclusive excellence. Jonathan has a tattered version of the culture guide that he carries everywhere with him. So we've seen that. We've seen the personalized learning guide, which is more a guide for our teachers because it really is instruction focused and really focused on the classroom. And then the Inclusive Excellence Guide, as we've talked about, we've been working on for the past maybe year and a half or so. And there's so much work that's been poured into that. Soraya Smith, Tracy Carson, and teams had really spent a lot of time focused on going through and talking about our DEIJ principles, what those mean in Mason, and just kind of showing for our staff and our families what that means to us and why certain aspects of it are important, and tying it back to personalized learning, tying it to our culture. And so that was previewed at the meeting on September 30th, but there was an embargo from that date because we were going to launch it, and Amy might speak to this in a minute, but for our teachers and staff on October 12th at a professional development day. So it was really great to go through that. I know the board, we reflected on it. We worked through the Inclusive Excellence Guide together too, and so to see it finally reach the stage where it was ready to launch was really exciting for the team. And then we spent some time going through our OKRs around inclusive excellence. Tracy and team and Soraya, reoriented the council about what that means, what an OKR is, and how we use those as markers of progress in the district. And so that was a great time to be able to check in and reflect on that. And then we talked about what's next, kind of reflecting on feedback that we'll get that we can discuss the next time around. But it was a really great launch. I'm really excited about the work this year.
Thanks, Matt. And Mason Schools Foundation.
Yeah, so Schools Foundation, also a really busy agenda. We met just this past week, and I'll talk about the big activity that's happening soon. But man, talk about a working committee, working group of people. That is the board that's expected to work, and boy, do they! They approved a tax document that needs to be filed as part of their charitable foundation or charitable status, and they put an estimate, or there's sort of a line item that it's just kind of a throwaway, but how many hours each person volunteers a week, and it says 1 hour, and they all got a big chuckle about what 1 hour would look like for them. There's no way that 1 hour a day probably matches what they do. But there was what was noteworthy that I wanted to share with you is that we talked about the gala a lot, but they also gave updates on other activities in the district that are near and dear to so many people's hearts. And so we talked about reading challenge, for instance, and about the fact that is going to happen this year, and it's going to look a lot closer to what it used to be pre-COVID. It will still look a little different because there's still some things that we'll do a little bit differently, but I'm super excited about that happening again, more like it used to in our schools. So look for that in the next couple months to come, and report on various grants and things that are happening on that front. But then the big exciting event that's coming up, of course, as a reminder, is this Saturday is their gala that is taking place at the Manor House. It's incredible. I still can't quite wrap my brain around it, but it's sold out. So, and we didn't cut the tickets in half as a result of COVID. They trimmed it down a little bit, but not much. It's still a record by any sense of the word. And so it's sold out to be in the room, but there's still an opportunity to sign on and take part in, viewing the event live as it happens, the program, but also bidding on silent auction items. So, and those went online today. I know Charles and I have had a little Twitter battle back and forth about outbidding each other on items, but we're going to try and get some of that competition going and getting items bid on soon. But look forward to seeing you all on Saturday. Thank you.
May or may not have bid on some things while you were going through that update. You never know. You might want to check out.
See, rookie mistake. I'll wait. Bid against yourself a couple times. Then I'll give it.
All right. Legislative update.
Yeah, just a couple items I want to highlight. First one, you've heard a lot about the finances. Finance is something that we work really hard at being good stewards of and fiscally responsible throughout the entire year, and it's ongoing. Another thing that we do is we try to advocate when there is opportunities at the state level to make sure that we are getting a fair share of funding from the state or the federal government, depending on how that's rolled out. During the pandemic, there have been funds called ESSER funds, and those ESSER funds have come out to help districts that try to offset some of the costs that have been lost, whether it was like us trying to do our best, and we did, stayed open the entire time. We did incur some costs that were involved with that, and so we use those ESSER funds to help offset some of those additional costs. Well, there is money currently still available that has not been allocated yet, and so here's one of the things that we're looking at, and Sean has done a phenomenal job of putting together a spreadsheet. It shows what schools received what portion of the ESSER funds per student. So we broke it down per pupil. And you can look across the 615 districts or 609 districts, I think, that received money for the state of Ohio. And I think we've mentioned it every time, but we're number 602. So 602 on the, if we put them all in order, we were the 602nd to get the least amount of money. So
Out of how many, Sean? I think 602 out of 609.
Yeah, so if you've been...
That's not top 7. We can't really say that's top 7.
If we perform in the top 2%, we get funding in the bottom 2%.
There you go.
Performing in the top 2%.
Bottom 1%.
And getting funding in the bottom 1%. So you're getting a great deal in Mason City Schools. But here's what we're asking. I think it's a very reasonable ask, and we're asking our local legislators to help us with this, and also the governor and the state. But it's basically, with the additional funding, the ESSER funds that are still available to be allocated, if they would consider taking the districts that did not receive very many funds up to a certain floor. And so we're asking them to consider that. To give you an example, there are districts that are not far that were receiving, I think, $15,000 per student. We received $250 per student. So that's the discrepancy. We have districts that are well in areas that are very wealthy, I would say, that received triple the amount of money per student that we received. So something's not right with the formula allocation, so we will be advocating at the state level on behalf of Mason City Schools and our taxpayers to hopefully receive some of those funds.
And that's just reorient us to what funds we're talking about, and why it's a concern as far as, compare, the districts that you're talking about. These are funds that were intended for schools to return and be open and have their classrooms, and we did that.
Yes, it's a great point. So the funds were to offset the additional costs that were incurred by the districts. Our school district stayed open the entire pandemic, and so we did add additional safety measures and all kinds of online learning tools and everything to support our families in all different avenues. But we kept the doors open, we kept our schools open, and so that cost money to do that well. And so and there are districts that chose different routes that received, I don't know how many times it is, 20 times, 100 times more than we received per student. So that's why we're...
You mean chose different routes didn't open last year?
Chose not to open
so
up.
In all likelihood didn't experience as high a cost to open because they
Correct.
didn't, and still receiving tens of thousands more dollars per student than us.
Is that accurate? Look at the treasurer, that's the superintendent version, I think that's accurate.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So what it gives the appearance of is that schools that didn't open got more money some cases, and in some cases, schools that did open got less money. So it just something doesn't seem right there.
And it can be, I mean, we're, now in year, 2021, 2022, going back a year, it's easy to forget, but going 5 days a week, full-time, in-person learning, starting in August, was nowhere near the norm in our region, in our state, in our country.
It was estimated at one point in time there were 15 to 20% of schools in the nation that were even back at all in person, whether it was part-time or full-time. We were full-time, so we were probably in the top 2%. I don't know if that's the right number, but we were in a small group of schools across the nation that stayed open, and I don't say that lightly. It was because of this amazing team. It was because of the amazing principals in our buildings and the teachers that, to have teachers that are willing to figure that out, that doesn't happen, or bus drivers to figure it out. It was everyone coming together saying, this is our mission on behalf of our students to keep our doors open, and it's going to take a lot of work. And so you can imagine now in year 2, people are tired. That is honest. We've all been pushing the limits on what we thought was not even possible, and we made possible, and we did it, I think, really well. And so that's where we sit today.
So again, just to tie this up, we are not talking about rewriting the rules and the Herculean task of equitable and all-encompassing school funding. We're talking about very specific purpose, targeted funds for this pandemic and our operating. And there's a lot of money at stake, and we appreciate you keeping an eye on that and keeping our representatives in Columbus apprised of where we stand on that.
Can I just add, because this can appear to some like, oh, they're greedy, they just want more money, but these are the kind of things that we have to do for our community, and here's why. This money came from the big COVID bills that passed. There is more taxes coming. All of us are going to have to pay more taxes. You can decide, depending on where you are, that maybe some won't, but I think we can all agree if we're older than about 20, which we all are up here now, Charles, we will all pay more taxes. So, if this money were to come in a higher amount to us, it offsets the amount of tax we would have to pay on our property tax to keep up with the House Bill 920. Remember, the 920 ratchets it back. Income tax doesn't. So we can't sit back and just not advocate for our taxpayers. We have to get in that game and make sure that we're well represented. And because of the wide disparity, that's why we're doing it. So if you're watching this and you're like, oh, here's Mason, greedy, just wants more money, that's not it. We want your taxes to be lower because other taxes are coming at us all, and we have to be very proactive. And so I know you won't say that, Jonathan, but I got to add that because that's very real. And by the way, this is perfect for Paul Zellweger. You can put this in front of him. He will go after this, and I have confidence in him. He'll get it done.
Great. The second update on here is just a quick update that you probably heard some people talking about across the state this week. They did change the quarantine policy again across the state of Ohio. This is something that was done in concert with a pilot program that we were fortunate enough to be a part of. I want to thank the board formally for continuing to push us along and staying open. I talk to colleagues across the country, and to have a Board of Education that wants to do our best to posture to be safe and open, and always to do that and to fall to that. It helps our team. It gives us a goal. It gives us a vision, and so we appreciate that. Because of that, we were able to host a pilot program. The pilot program, along with studies across the nation, influenced the change in policy. So now the quarantine process has been talked about for 2 years and really plaguing districts in terms of keeping healthy kids at home. There are times to quarantine, and there are appropriate times when kids are sick or have symptoms. But when kids are healthy, you want to keep them at school. And so this process has changed things, and kids can stay in school more now than ever before. The pilot program itself, I believe the last number I looked at was about 3,500 in-person school days have been saved in 4 weeks. That's a lot of in-person school days. Because if you imagine when a kid is quarantined, they're at home separated from the class, it puts an extra burden on the teacher, it puts an extra burden on the family, and especially on that student in the middle that is now separated from their friends and falling behind in their class. And so this allows healthy students to stay in school. The pilot program saw the numbers that were aligned with the rest of the studies going on across the country, that about 97% of students who are in close contact range in the school setting, whether with a mask or without a mask, are proven to not get COVID-19, those that were a part of the study, because they had to test to be a part of the study. So, and those numbers aligned with studies across the country. So it's not just here, it's something that they've seen as a pattern. So that's good news. Our numbers currently right now are down 50% from 3 weeks ago. So that's another positive number for us. So it's going in the right direction. So we're really encouraged. So that's the quick legislative update for me.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks.
Well, just real quick, I want to say, I want to thank you, Jonathan, too, for your leadership in this, because I think that a lot of, I'll just say it, I think that change wouldn't happen in Ohio without your leadership, flat out. No way it happens. I don't think anybody in this room believes that it would. I know that it wouldn't. So on behalf of the district, of course, but on behalf of kids all across Ohio, I thank you for your dogged determination. Starting with safely opening, but looking at the science and asking for the data to guide those decisions in a real way. And so just wanted to give you a little bit of that credit that you wouldn't take for yourself, and say thank you.
I appreciate it. And I can't take it all. It's this crew here that when I'm sitting in those meetings and I'm saying, I don't know, can we continue to do this? And they're looking at me like, yes, we can continue to do this. Look at the data, Jonathan. Yes, you're right. We got it. So thanks. Appreciate it.
All right. Item number 19, administrator commentary.
Just congratulations to postseason play out there. I don't know, just one stat. There's a lot of good stuff going on, but our tennis team, I think I shared with you guys, our tennis team, 7 years in a row at the state. This is tennis for girls. I think it was, they came in 3rd place their first year at the state, 2nd place the next year, and then the next 5 years they won. So, congratulations to all of our postseason, but that's a pretty impressive statistic. Thanks, that's all I have.
All right. Item number 20, board commentary.
Thanks, Charles. Just congratulations to the students that were here to be recognized tonight. And I thank you, and I haven't got to publicly thank Jonathan and the rest of the administrative team for, I know there's a lot of praises during, when we were leading the program on staying open, but so much is still going on, and I don't want to neglect this. Thank you for your continued work to keep us here and safe and just being innovative and leading the way for the state to make the schools, better and open and safe and healthy and get back to normal. So thank you.
Matt?
Yeah, a lot going on. Jonathan, as you mentioned, postseason play for fall sports. I mean, there's just so many that I know that I'll forget some. But girls soccer, boys soccer, cross country, boys and girls. The play is inspiring usually, and I don't do this very often, but I wanted to point out and give special credit and special recognition to Grace McKay. And sorry, I might get teared up, but I'm dear friends with their family. Grace McKay, one of maybe the nicest human being I'll ever meet, recently beat cancer, and now she helped lead her team in cross country. And so I just wanted to give a call out to her. Her dad's a teacher here at the high school, and they're a special family. Love to see that, and to see her teammates calling out her inspiration to them is just really touching and really great to see. And I wanted to give a shout out too to the Mason Drama team for their production of Puffs. I went to see it on Saturday in the upstairs theater here with my daughter. For those of you who don't know, it's a spoof on Harry Potter, and I guys have to go see it because it was just Jonathan and his daughter were there that night too, and a couple other people I saw. It was phenomenal. I mean, I'm smiling right now just thinking about just individual performances and just the one-liners that Ainsley and I still chuckle at. So great job, really great job. And such a cool space. I'm not sure if folks really know that we have that theater up there and the different configurations that you can have that none of us probably certainly had in high school. That opportunity. So congratulations to our marching band, 3rd place out of 64 at Super Regionals in Indianapolis this past weekend. And I know they're looking forward to Grand Nationals again this year. That'll happen next month. Hoping I can make it. It might be a little tight, but just really exciting to see all their hard work pay off. And really quickly, I'll just say too that a few of us had lots of opportunities to engage with a lot of people in our community in this past month or so, and man, I got to tell you, I'm reminded more than I've ever been what a special place this is, full of special people who are really engaged and really thoughtful and really engaged in what's best for our kids. And so I just wanted to take a second and thank the different folks who put on opportunities for people to hear directly from people who are running for office. And so just made Chamber, Papa, Asian Pacific Islander Forum on Tuesday, our students here at the high school last Wednesday, Black Student Union, Student Activism Club, and National Honor Society. Dr. Bates led that or emceed that forum or moderated the forum. We only got 90 seconds to talk. Those students' questions were phenomenal and just showed a grasp of issues and a maturity that just blew us all away. And so I just wanted to take a minute and thank people for putting on those events and for the engagement. And just to say that I say that to share that this is a special place and I'm lucky to be a part of it. So thank you. Kevin?
So I won't list all the accomplishments of the sports teams, but the girls tennis, Coach Mike Reed has really it's an unbelievable program. It was really nice to hear some of our students tonight here, part of his program, either this year or in past years, and just tremendous accomplishment that those young women pulled off, and their counterparts on the boys team have similar results, but boy, those girls are tough, and so congrats to them. I would like to. This is the first time, I don't know, 20 years times 12, so 300-400 school board meetings. I'm going to do a shout out to the Ohio School Boards Association. I went when I was, I don't know, first year on the board. I went to the OSBA convention, and I was appalled, and I never went back. I like that others go. It just doesn't fit my thing, and I've been very critical over the years of the OSBA. There's some things they do very nicely that we benefit from, but I don't know. So I've been a critic, but I want to today say thank you to the OSBA. Many of us saw the NSBA and the comments they made about parents who have an issue and want to come speak at school board meetings, and how that got amplified and routed through the administration, through the Justice Department, and then what you can say maybe was misunderstood, not misunderstood, made it to the front of the Congress and hearings. Just appalling what the NSBA did as a result, and I didn't even know what the NSBA was. I wanted us to quit, and then I realized, well, you can't because we're not members. The members of the NSBA are all the state associations, so they have 50 members, which are state associations. I don't know if it's 50, but maybe 51 or 2. And we're a member of OSBA. So we got a letter today in our packet that OSBA, the Board of Trustees of the OSBA, has chosen to end its affiliation with the National School Boards Association. I applaud them, and this is my personal opinion, but that's the kind of response to some of the things going on need to happen around here, because that divisiveness is it's just incredible to imagine a school board not wanting to Connie's been a strong advocate of making sure that microphone is always ready for parents, no matter what their message is, and we're going to hear it. We have rules to do it in an orderly way, but we're going to hear it, and I'm proud that this board supports that as well. And so that's my 2 comments for tonight.
Thanks, Kevin. Connie? Thanks, Connie. I will rehash some of the athletic prowess that we've enjoyed this fall season. Again, kudos to the tennis team. I also want to give a special spotlight. I know Matt spotlighted the girls cross-country team, and that is a remarkable story and very inspiring. The boys cross-country team, as I understand it, is really enjoying a historic run this season. Just if you haven't followed along, the times and the results they've been posting so far have really been incredible, and I know we've got some inspiring stories on that team too, so we are excited to follow them along as well. No breaking news tonight. I didn't see any updates on our boys soccer team playing. They're playing they're playing LaSalle tonight, but wishing them well as well. And then the girls defeating St. Ursula last night in a dramatic come-from-behind victory. So they've got Seton coming up, I think, Thursday night perhaps, or later this week. Looking forward to celebrating with the Mason Schools Foundation Gala this weekend. Also looking forward to joining our friends at the Maid Chamber for their Gems of Excellence dinner this week. And also wanted to kind of touch on what Kevin said. You know, the other side of that coin. You know, commending the OSBA and you know that platform. I want to commend our community, especially our parents and you know the stakeholders of this community that stay so engaged with the work that is going on in this district, that stay informed. They reach out to us. You might not always see them if you're watching just on ICRC-TV, but they're very passionate about their children's education. They're very passionate about how their tax dollars are spent, and they let us know their thoughts. Sometimes that's positive, sometimes it's critical, but they exercise a lot of forms and channels of communication with us, whether it's email, whether it's phone calls, whether it's at that microphone. And in my 4 years on the board, I've never felt like this community has, you know, abused any sort of you know, platform that we offer. I feel like, you know, that they've taken the opportunity to engage us in respectful dialogue, and I appreciate that, and that's why I think for us as a board, it's just kind of incomprehensible that anybody would ever view parent feedback, parent criticism in a negative way. But to Matt's point, we live in a special place. We live in a special community, and I know that we as a board don't take that for granted, and I know that we appreciate the engagement our community provides, and as your elected representatives, we really take that to heart. We really try to reflect the values and the priorities that you as a community communicate to us. So we appreciate that. We're grateful for that. And since Matt and Connie have already touched on it as well, I'll touch on it as too. It's been a privilege to serve the board, serve this community as a board member. I hope everybody will do their civic duty, get out and vote if you haven't already by next Tuesday. Early voting is going on right now. I want to publicly acknowledge and thank Connie and Matt specifically, who are you know, incumbents here alongside me. I've truly enjoyed working with both of you on this board. I've learned from both of you, and appreciate how you have helped us conduct these meetings and the work of the board in a civil way and in a way that I think hopefully is a you know an example for other districts. I know that I've benefited from your presence on the board, and I feel like our community has as well. I want to wish the challengers in our race the best of luck. I appreciate and commend both of them for conducting themselves in what I feel has been, you know, a professional and a civil manner. I would not want to be in any other school board race in the country, but this one right now. And so I look forward to the exciting conclusion of local election season next week, and getting back to work in the district one way or another. So with that, I don't have any other comments tonight. The last item on our agenda is a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes. Thanks, everybody.